consideration. Discontinue singing in rehearsals and chanting and other practices and performances where there is an increased likelihood for transmission from contaminated exhaled droplets. So I want to really look at this. Contaminated exhaled droplets. CED, as I will call it now. So the CED, the contaminated exhaled droplets, could infect someone nearby. Are you with me on this, friends? All right. Contaminated exhaled droplets are so contagious that just by the fact of singing, you could make someone sick. That's what the tyrant in charge is telling us. Therefore, the guidelines are saying that you should not sing or chant. So what about talking? I guess we shouldn't talk anymore. We already know we're not supposed to breathe, which is why we have the mask. I get that part. Even though God breathed in the breath of life and gave us life, I guess we already shouldn't breathe. We certainly shouldn't breathe near anyone. And we don't want to exhale the contaminated droplets. Well, let me ask you this. If these exhaled contaminated droplets are so strong that they could infect someone nearby, why is it, now I want you to listen carefully and help me understand, and maybe you've already thought of this. Why is it if someone goes to get tested for this illness that they have a swab that is inserted way up in their nasal passage to get the virus? Can't you simply do this for your test? Have the swab here and do this. Why not?
Ban.
I think that's a very prudent measure.
He studies the emission of expiratory aerosols, tiny particles you can't see by the naked eye that carry virus.
People don't think about this risk because they don't see it, but it's there. And there's a lot of evidence now that COVID-19 is transmitted via these very small expiratory particles that you can't see.
Okay, guys, so I have got to talk about this new research that has emerged, and it was only conducted by 2 scientists, but there have been 239 who have hopped on board, and they reined in their consensus, and they want the WHO on board. They want to make this aware, make everyone aware that coronavirus is airborne. They are saying it is. Not only can it travel 6 feet, but it can travel tens of meters. They're saying it can travel a room's distance, 30 feet even. And that by talking, and this is, I've said this from the beginning, that was basically the consensus, that it's spread through talking. So they are saying singing now. I haven't heard them mention screaming, like at protests and such. But they have mentioned singing is a problem. So no more singing in church, guys. But yeah, basically, it's a theory. It's another theory because, as I've said time and time again, we don't know for sure. This infectious disease with viruses, we don't understand how they are transmitted. We don't understand how they are spread. There is no scientific confirmation. This is why when you turn on the news, when you talk to a doctor, when you talk to a person, everyone has something different to say. Because we don't know. Oh my goodness, how is that so hard to say? We don't freaking know. So, this consensus is that it is airborne. It can travel way further than we thought. And so, like I said, they have told this to the WHO. The WHO is denying this. They are denying it. They have even put out a memo that I will show here saying that, let's just continue with, the measures that we have in place. Social distancing, mask wearing. Because here's the thing, and even the WHO will acknowledge that the mask wearing can be a risk sometimes, and if not done properly, it it's pointless. It's pointless, given what we think we know about the virus, okay? So, the reason why I thought this was interesting, the WHO's response to this, is because what can they do? What can we tell people? If this is the truth, if it can spread, by talking, across a room, what the hell is a mask going to do? What the hell is social distancing 6 feet going to do? What are people going to do? How will we ever go inside anywhere again? Which, mind you, that's what they are saying, that ventilation is what is so vital, so necessary. We already knew this. This is common sense. Outside is the best place to be, in the sun, where the sun is cleansing, giving you vitamin D. There is, ventilation, obviously. So that's the best place to be. But there's nothing else you can do. There is nothing else you can do but do what you've always done. Be clean. Wash your hands. Don't go up kissing and licking people and touching on doorknobs and licking your hand. I mean, there's nothing people can do. What the hell is a mask going to do? They can't recommend this if we all determine this is the truth. Because if you're moving a mask around, if you're breathing in it, there's moisture in there, you're touching it, if it's not sealed properly, any situation where you're having to wear a mask for longer than, I'd say, like 10 minutes, it's useless. And this is assuming that it's not useless for those first 10 minutes. You have to assume that. So, yeah, there's like nothing they can recommend after this. I was talking to my stepdad about this and explaining, like, people don't care about the details anymore. It's fear. They're driven by fear. They are like in this bubble where they're watching their political side of the news that, gives one version of the truth, and the details don't matter. Like, if you have all the details and you know exactly what you can know about this, what is possible, then there's not, why are you so afraid? Why are you so scared? And I was explaining to him why the mask is not helping anyone. And he was like, well, it's a good reminder. A reminder? Really? Really? You think that's helping people? Just remember, most viruses, this one in particular, is so tiny that we cannot see it with the modern microscope. This is why we have to recreate it. This is why we have to theorize about these micro droplets, and we can only look at particles, and we have to piece this puzzle together with a bunch of theories. And I'm not saying it's incorrect. It may be, but it's all still theory. We don't know for sure. This is why nobody can agree. This is why you're always hearing something different. And I can tell you what, if we can't even figure out how exactly these things are spread, this one in particular, because it's novel, it's new, when they get this vaccine ready, quote unquote, and I say ready with huge quotations, when they finally get this vaccine ready, it ain't coming anywhere near anybody who has some damn common sense. If they end up saying you have to take it to go to school, guess what? We're not going to school. Because they can't even figure out how to make the antibodies stick. They don't, even if they could, that's just one piece to all of this. Antibodies, we don't even understand that fully. That's all they've got with vaccines. Oh, we've got antibodies. This proves that, something is showing up in the system. Oh, Jesus, Lord. Why do you think it is that people that have been vaccinated can get the disease? Hey, I've got an idea. To the CDC, to the WHO, to the doctors across America, the scientists across the world who want to band together and give their consensus. How about we recommend that, since we can look at the data, we can look at the actual facts, and we can see that the mortality rate is not very high for one. But the people that are dying, the small percentage that is dying, they likely have vitamin D deficiency. They likely have diabetes, other ailments and issues. So how about we, tell people, get your vitamin D checked. Make sure you have adequate levels. Try to get healthy, eat right. Try to get out in the sun. Make sure you're getting all your micronutrients. Make sure your microbiome is in check, because when you have health, you can handle these things. You can handle a cold. You can handle the flu. I mean, let's be real. Why are we acting like we can't understand these things? People just, it's like they want to believe that any random person, completely healthy, can get this and just die. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? How? When so many people are not dying, when so many people can get this and show minor symptoms. It's irrational, and it's because people don't want to take responsibility. I don't want to be insensitive to those who don't have the best health circumstances, so maybe that's why they're so afraid. But I just want to say this. We are surrounded by bacteria and viruses, and our bodies are made of this stuff. So it's just irrational to act as if we can pick and choose which ones we're going to be afraid of and run and do all these, mask wearing, social distancing, vaccines, take all these precautions just for certain ones that we decided we're afraid of when we're surrounded. The best thing we can do is just make sure our health is in as good a state as possible, and that, our bodies can handle these things, because they are handling these things. They're handling numerous viruses right now. While one person is living symbiotically with strep, another person can have an infection from it. So all I'm saying is, if we're surrounded by billions, wouldn't it make more sense, instead of doing what the CDC is doing and adding to this growing list of those we need to be afraid of, those we need to make vaccines for, those we already have vaccines for, and it's growing. It's a growing list. It's right under 20 now. It'll be well above 20 in a few more years. Instead of doing that, how about we figure out why the Taliban is having coffee next door, that they're coming in trying to kill us? How about we figure out what's going on in the body? What's going on? How these interactions are made.
Have to be increased. A new study finds coronavirus can travel 13 feet from an infected person. Researchers in China, tested surface and air samples from an intensive care unit and general rooms at a hospital in Wuhan. Of course, you know that now as the COVID-19 epicenter. They found fine droplets carrying the virus in the air traveled as far as 13 feet from the patient.
Researchers found that the smaller droplets that emerge in a cough or a sneeze have associated gas clouds that keep their potentially infectious droplets aloft over a much greater distance than you might expect than previously realized. So that means they may travel as far as 25 feet. So just think about this for a minute. Well, do me a favor, will you? Where's the gizmo? Hold on to this. I'm going to walk up, and as I go along, tell me how far I'm going as I go. Okay, ready? Okay, you can see the little numbers there.
I need my glasses.
Know,
okay, go ahead.
That's all right.
4 feet.
4 feet, okay.
Where are you going, Ed?
I'm going 25 feet.
Newscast.
Oh, there.
Stop. Wait a minute. That's 18, 19.
That's 18. How much is this?
22, 23. Right there. Stop.
Right here. Really? Seriously? It can travel this far?
That's a heck of a
But it can travel 25 feet, so be mindful of that.
Okay, thanks for the visual. Don't let go.
Last minute editing, guys. I just need to add in a few points I may have missed or made confusing. So, in this new study that they've said, the CV can travel tens of meters, and they are also saying, and this is based off of their microparticles they're saying it's traveling through. And so, by the way, when I speak about masks, this is the only way a mask could help is if the virus is traveling inside of these droplets, of liquid, which I'm sure they are in some cases, but we don't know that. We don't know that they are always traveling that way. Maybe when you sneeze or coughing, they come out in droplets, but when you're talking, they may come out just as by themselves as viruses, just floating around. So anyway, in this micro droplets, they are saying that it travels across a room and they're saying it also can linger in the air for longer than it does on the floor, than we thought it did on surfaces. And this is indoors, of course, because outdoors, it won't last that long. But they are saying it can linger longer than on the floor, and they were saying the floor was like days, so longer than that. And they're not clear on how long exactly, but they're saying it could last longer and it could go farther. That was the basic premise. That was the basic point, and that it's airborne. And so I guess this is how they concluded that the singing is a problem, because if it can come out through talking, singing can make it, travel even greater distances. We're basically living in clown world, and I don't know, you just have to laugh to keep from crying. The other point I wanted to talk about was that in these documents that the WHO released in reference to this, they don't even specifically recommend mask wearing except for medical workers, and they don't even recommend social distancing. I pointed to it when I edit it in the documents, but they basically say physical distance and not social distancing. They say that specifically. That sort of saves their butt, and I guess, in 10, 20, 30 years from now, we'll look back on all of this and laugh when we understand these things a little better. But for now, no breathing, no talking, and definitely no singing, and no screaming.